Tom Reid. Please be joined with a guy there. You can certainly get. He's been recognizable since 1985, since he's been here. Joe Schmit. And Joe, this is tough. I mean, you're leaving after 40 years of broadcasting with KSTP. You're finally retiring.
I am. And people thought I retired a couple years ago, Tom, but so I figured I better do it.
I know the feeling.
You know, it's been a really tremendous ride. It really has. And I like to think of hockey. We were just talking about back in the old days at Met Stadium and doing live shots on the bench. At 6:20 for a 7 o'clock game, I'd be talking to Neil Broughton or Kirk Giles or Brian Lawton. You were always available. We never wanted to talk to you.
I understand that, and you didn't. But thanks anyway.
We did when you went to the bar, because you know what that meant? Free beer and free food. So
where was it? What bar were we in? Not mine, that's for sure. I mean, you must have a lot of. Is there one memory that stands out in your mind?
Well, you know, you look. I'll keep it to hockey. I remember the Andrew Burnett goal against the Avs, and I remember Mark Rose and I were sitting next to the press box, and people don't realize that, you know, when a team gets on a roll and you're traveling with a team, you spend more time with guys like Rosen and Shaver than I did with my wife and kids. And Rose and I looked at each other, and it was like we wanted to hug, and I was like, why would I hug my competition? But it was just like one of these moments. It was so surreal, and so the moments that you don't expect are always the best moments. Not the pumped-in fan noise, the true adulation that you get.
Yeah, and I go back to '87 when the Twins won the World Series, and going to that with my wife and my mom and my dad, and remember that vividly and how much fun that was to be a part of that, and a memory that I'll have forever.
Well, '87, the one to me was when they had the homecoming. They just beat Detroit.
Yes, I was there for that too.
Yeah, and they expected 10,000. There were 60,000.
Yeah,
and that place was electric. They had no concession stands open. There was no music in. They had no program. They had no plan. You know what they had? They had fans who cared about the team.
Yeah.
And that's why I really want the Wild to make a run, because I know what happens to this town. This area is so hungry for a winner. And, you know, the Wild have an opportunity. You know, the Wolves are going to make a run, too. Wouldn't it be crazy if they both did, you know, when they're kind of both unexpected to?
You know, you talk about retirement. So what brings you to that point of retirement?
Well, you know, I didn't want to leave too late, and I didn't want them to shove me out the door. And I've got a lot going on. I've got a speaking career. I've got some other things that I'm doing. And I just thought, you know what, the time is right. I have my health. I want to spend a little more time with my wife, and I've got grandkids now. So I just thought, you know, if you don't make the time will go by. And you and I both know. We both know too many people who work, and then the next thing they get done working, they get sick or they can't move around. Yeah, I
can't do that now.
Yeah. I want to be as active for as long as I can be active.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Is there one sport that you like more than another? And the reason I say it is because I look at my pub and I see pictures of you when we had our media hockey team. And we'd go around and play different games.
Oh, God, those were fun days. Yeah. We had a good time. You know, I will say the Wild and hockey fans are great, but the Vikings do rule here.
Yes.
So when the Vikings are on a roll or whatever, it's hard to beat the NFL for the overall, you know, and from my standpoint, the TV standpoint, there's more interest in it in anything. You know, the fact that, you know, people are caring about the 7th round draft choice for the Vikings is all you need to know. So that happens. But I will say one thing, there are no more loyal fans in hockey, and no more knowledgeable fans. You know, I think the one thing I'll miss the most of all the things I do is the state hockey tournament. That's the one. Yeah. I got a little teary-eyed leaving the last day. I really did. I thought, you know, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'll go back to it. I'll watch it. But that's pure, and that's authentic, and that's the kind of stuff you love.
Yeah, you do. And I remember Lou Nanny. Of course, Lou and I used to split the games up in the high school tournament, but he did it for 60 years.
I know.
And you know what's difficult, and you probably know this too, you don't know the players at all. It's hard to get to know the players in 3 days when you got 16 teams coming into it.
And Louis did a good job, or either that or he was better BSing than you, one of the two.
Well, he's really good at it.
But so are you. You guys are both in that Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And you've come across a lot of celebrities over the years. Is there any celebrity that stands out in your mind that you really had a great interview with, you really enjoyed?
You know, through Mike Veck, I ended up having a pretty good relationship with Bill Murray. Oh. You know, I was the first guy to interview Veck when he was doing the Saints, and I did a couple live shots over there. He never forgot that. So whenever Murray was in town, he'd call me and say, "You want him live?" And I said, "I'll be over." So I got to know Bill Murray, and some great stories. Bill Murray's telling me he was there the night that Prince played the guitar, "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," and Prince told Bill Murray, "Stick around, I got something special planned." And Bill Murray said, I was gonna blow the joint, and all of a sudden there's this great moment. So anyway, it is kind of funny, and you know this because you've met Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky and all these guys. When you're around the hockey guys, all of a sudden the movie stars and rock stars, and those are the ones that are more fun to meet, which is crazy.
Well, you're in the same business, whether it be a carpenter or whatever. These are the guys you work with every day. You get to know them more on a personal level also.
Yeah, well, I always think that pro athletes want to be actors and musicians want to be pro hockey players and pro athletes.
This is true. I have to agree with you on that. The other thing is, when you have a job like you've had and to leave at 40 years, I'm sure wherever you go that you're recognized. I mean, it happens because you're on so much. And just wanted you to know that how much you're appreciated by all of us who work in this industry too, and what you bring to the table, the honesty that takes place. And sometimes it gets emotional also when things don't go the way you want them to go, and you have to work so hard to get there. And like you said, Minnesota's never had the cup yet. It'd be great if they could.
Well, that's very nice of you. You know what I always tried to do is I always tried to A, show my heart, and B, be the voice of the fans. And I think I got better in the business, Tommy. This is going to sound weird. But when I realized it wasn't about me. When you first get into business, you're kind of young. You're looking for the pat on the back. It's all about you. When I realized it was about the viewer and about somebody who was going to say, I'm going to watch this guy for 3 minutes, that's what it was about. And, you think about it, Tom, why I'm retiring from a job and I work 3 minutes a day.
Yeah. And it shows.
And Tommy,
no one works harder than you guys. It's tough when you have those shots and they're not going the way you want them to go, and you got to redo it, reshoot it.
Oh, yeah. I lead the league in screw-ups. I really do. But I think if there's one thing I'm proud of, Tom, it's like, I don't know if anybody had as much fun on the job as I did. And we always tried to work hard and work smart. But if we didn't have a few good laughs a day, and you were always part of that, I look back to my charity involvement started with Tom Reid. You used to run that golf tournament for Make-A-Wish all the time. Right. And I came to you and said, I'm thinking about starting a golf tournament for Big Brothers. And you said, don't do it. No, you helped me do it. Yeah. And we turned it into a great, great thing, and we helped a lot of kids and a lot of people. So I will always be appreciative of that.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing about helping others. And you certainly have helped your majority of people along the way. There's no question about that.
Well, thank you. It's you got a platform, and like I said, once you figure out it's not all about you.
Well, you're a gem. You're a blessing to all of us here in the state that watch you, and wish you nothing but the very best in your retirement. Thanks, Joe, for being with us.
Thank you. And I still have a pass this year, so as long as the Wild keep winning, I'm showing up.
Well, I was going to give you certificates, but forget it. I'm going to let you pay. Joe, thanks again. Kevin, back to you.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.